Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. I have here in the studio the amazing Jana Groscost with those incredible glasses. Jana, could you just put those on one more time? I just want to reach through the camera and get these glasses. And I
All
am
right.
so excited to have you here, Jana. Jana's a best-selling author, you all, and she has some incredible information to share today on how, three common sales saboteurs. And this is just going to be marvelous. So welcome, Jana.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited to be here, Barnsley. This is such a thrill. And I know you and I both have powerful messages. So we're excited to get started with some magic today.
Yes, let's create magic. And let's especially create magic because as you and I were talking about, there are a lot of layoffs happening right now. There's a lot happening out in our world and more women in particular are starting businesses, right?
It's so true. And I actually came up with an acronym of things we could talk about today. And the first letter, so the word is fuss, right? Because we want to get out of fuss mode and into productivity. So the first letter is F, and you brought up the first word, which is fear, right? So even if you're not getting laid off right now, there's a lot of fear that's circulating. And because we are tied in energetically to the energy and the people around us, we're feeling it on some level. Sometimes it's just sort of that low tremor of, I don't know what's wrong, but something's going on. And so it's really tuning into, is this my fear? Is this really a fear I should have? Or am I just sort of tying into the collective consciousness?
I love that. That is so true, because everything reverberates out. Our energy does reverberate out. And, it's something that I always say to my Reiki students is when you are feeling a certain way, like fearful or anxious, get quiet for a second and ask yourself, how much of this is mine? And especially those of you who are watching this, I'm guessing that a very small part of it is yours, and you are taking on a lot of the emotions of other people and processing those. So, fear is very real. And it's important that we overcome that. Well, before we get deep into these common saboteurs that you are going to identify for us, um, such as fear. I know fear is one of them. But before we go deeper, I want to just share a little bit about you because you all, Jana, is just super interesting. She was an accountant by trade. For how many years, Jana?
About 35 years. So quite a while.
35 years as an accountant, you all. And that was her business, and you reached a point where you decided that you weren't using all of your skills and all of what your soul yearned to do. Tell us a little bit about what happened and how you were drawn to start the goddesspreneur.com business.
Absolutely. So this happened actually quite a while ago, about, 25 years ago. I went through a divorce. And in going through that divorce, I recognized I was attracting the same type of guys to me, right? So I kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, why am I attracting this type of person? And it sent me on this kind of the spiritual journey of self-discovery. And so here I am, single mom. I'm not getting child support or alimony. And I've got to figure out things from a different perspective because I can't go back to working 60 hours a week. And my ex-husband was not supporting us on any financial level. So I kind of accounting was my background with all of that. But what I recognized in that moment was I am going through this struggle because I know there are so many women out there, whether they're still in a marriage or they are divorced, there's just this ongoing struggle with women and money. And with my background in accounting, I understood this energetic properties of money as well as the practical elements of money. And so I started teaching courses on, financial principles and understanding money and shifting your relationship with money so that you can attract more of it to you. And some of those relationships, these are family dynamics that we grew up with. Like, I'm sure, Barnsley, you can think of something where, you'd ask for money from dad or something. He's like, what do you think? I'm made of money, or money grows on trees? Like, what was yours? Do you remember?
Or so-and-so's a rich bitch, right? We've heard that, haven't we? She's a
Oh
rich,
my goodness.
you know, we've heard all sorts of stuff. You know, you're making me realize, you know, when I grew up in the South, most people don't realize that, right? But we didn't talk about money. And yet, when I finished graduate school, I wasn't married. There was no other source of income. I had worked 3 jobs to put myself through graduate school, as I call it. And I know you can identify with this. And suddenly I had, you know, I was out on my own and it was like, you got to make this happen. So I started to educate myself about money and I started, like you, studying prosperity principles because, like you say, the energy of money is something else. Like we could understand all the strategies in the world and we could watch Suze Orman and, you know, listen to these people and try what they do, you know. But if the energy blueprint we have is a shanty, right? We're going to live in a shanty if that's our money
Exactly.
energy blueprint. Tell more about what you mean by the energy of money. I think that people are going to really find this interesting.
The energy of money, that's a topic we can talk about for days,
Yes.
right? But you think about, money is truly neutral, right? Like
Mhm.
it does have a vibration to it, but it's the value that we place on it. And if we are in scarcity mode, then we're actually pushing money away, right? We are energetically that magnet that is repelling money.
Yes.
And when we are aligned and when we believe we can receive, then we actually are the magnet that's attracting it to us. And so it's looking at that dynamic of, and money goes in waves too. So it's not always going to be like up, 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 up. It's going to come into your life. It's going to go
Yeah.
out of your life. We just need to be ready for those cycles.
It's going to
But the
circulate.
more we understand, yeah, it's circular. So the more we understand that we are the cause and effect of what we're receiving, which when I first heard that, I was like, no, me? Like, how am I pushing money away? I want money. And yet it's not necessarily just our thoughts that impact it. It's truly our beliefs, because beliefs reside on a deeper level. They're actually a part of the programming that kind of runs in our head and throughout our body. And so, like, let's say you're at a grocery store. I'm sure everybody's seen this. If you don't have kids, I'm sure you've seen kids at the grocery store. Mommy, I want. Mommy, I want. Mommy, I want. It's like
Yeah.
endless, right? And most of
Yeah.
the time, the parents are like, oh, we can't afford that. No, we're not going to buy that. And so they're subliminally sending messages to their kids about money. So I have to share a funny story about my daughter. My youngest daughter went to the the Thai restaurant to get Thai tea. And she took her wallet with her. She was probably 9, 10 ish. And she took her wallet, and I didn't realize she had all of her money in her wallet. She had
Mhm.
$171 in her wallet. She comes home and she says, oh, Mom, I must have left my wallet at the store or I dropped it. Now, as a parent, I could have flipped out and just said, what do you think you're doing? Why did you take all your money with you? You probably needed $5 or $6. I didn't. We retraced her steps, walked back and forth to the restaurant a couple of times, never found anything. And on the final walk back home, I said to her, somebody else must have been asking for a miracle, and they needed that money more than you do right now. That money's going to come back to you multiplied. So here she is. She turns 25 tomorrow. That kid found a $100 bill at the Empire State Building. She's walking down the beach. There's an envelope flying at her with two $50 bills in it. She finds money, $20 bills here. One day we're driving down a street and it's very desolate. And she says, Mommy, I think money is flying down the street. And so I stopped the car, and sure enough, there's these $5s and $1 bills floating down the street from where? I don't know. Right?
I love that.
But in that split second, I could have destroyed her belief about herself and receiving money. And so I bring this story up because I want everybody to think about, what experiences did you have with money as a child that is impacting you still today? Because that programming, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is still taking place. So the more mindful we are of what that the subconscious programming is, the more we can actually resolve whatever we felt, whatever shame,
That
guilt,
story.
whatever we had.
That's such a powerful story because, instead of judging her and putting her in a state of scarcity, like, how could you lose all your money, when she's younger? $171 is a lot when you're a kid. How could you lose all that? You let her see it and reframe it as prosperity, as abundance. Someone else needed a miracle. And that's going to return to you multiplied because you circulated it. I love that. That story gives me chills, actually, Jenna. I'm so glad you shared. I have to show you something. You're going to laugh. Okay, where is it? I have to show you the front of my book because you're going to laugh. You were talking about money flying everywhere. Look.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Motorcycle with money flying
Yes.
everywhere. That was also an image that was important to me. So, this is related. People may say, well, why are they exactly talking about money? But you see, it is related to sales because you're going to only have as many sales as you believe you are worthy and able to receive, right?
Absolutely. You will never out earn your self-worth.
Whoa. Oh, gosh, that's going in the comments. You will never out earn your self-worth. Whoa, that gives me chills. And that is so true. Tell us more about that.
How we feel about ourselves, how we value ourselves will impact what we put out there. So this lends to the you part of fuss, undervaluing your services or whatever you offer. So if you don't feel you're worthy and deserving of, say, $50 an hour, then you're not going to charge that, or $100 an hour, or $250 an hour, right? So when you can tune into what you're valuing yourself at now and where you want to be, then we have to bridge that gap and discover, why are you undervaluing your services?
Mm.
And this will also impact who you attract to you. Because if you're undervaluing your services, somebody who's used to paying, say, $200 for the same service will think, oh, well, they must not be very good at what they do, or they would be charging more, and I'm used to paying this amount. So they'll completely skip over you and find somebody else that is aligned with what they're willing to pay. So again, to set energy out, what am I projecting and how am I undervaluing my services so that it's shifting my mindset around what I receive.
I love that. And so I've put up we've got the acronym FUSS. So F is for fear. That's one of the sales saboteurs. And we'll go back to that. And we've got U for undervaluing yourself. And, women are notorious at this, Jenna, and myself included. Hey, everybody who's watching this now or later, I want you to put yes. If you have ever undervalued what you have to offer, just put yes in the comments because you're not alone. I think we've all done it at some time in our life. And it's why it's so very important to have a coach like Jana, like me, like another business coach who's awesome, who was going to say to you, look, you're not charging the market value. You are undervaluing yourself. Your strengths are this. You can do this. What you offer is precious, and we'll show you the way to actually raise your rates. That's one of the first things I do with my folks in the Make It Happen Mastermind is we massively raise their rates, but we create
Absolutely.
a value, right? That
Yes.
allows them to do that so that they're standing in, I'm valuable, not standing in, oh crap, I just raised my rates and will anybody ever pay it?
I know, because what ends up happening with most people when they raise their rates, their throat chakra closes off.
Yes.
I can't charge that amount. Or maybe it's solar plexus,
Yeah.
right? Where they're like, I can't charge that. Nobody's going to pay that amount. But right there, you've just said to yourself, I don't believe I'm worthy of that.
Mm.
And our worth, how we feel valuable and worthy within ourselves, impacts who we attract to us. So if we want more higher paying clients, then we need to increase our self-worth so that we attract them.
I love that. I love that, Jana. And I just want to say, I feel like I should say this. There are a lot of ways, you all, to increase your money worthiness, your prosperity, abundance consciousness. And one is to give yourself the experience of things you've always wanted to do. So go test drive a Tesla if you want a Tesla, or I saw a guy last night at the theater. I was watching a Broadway show at Durham Performing Arts Center with my daughter, which is one of my big splurges. I love it. Every year I have season tickets and it's fabulous. We have the most beautiful theater. It's one of the best theaters in the United States. And we go and have the whole season. It's beautiful. But find something that you can do. Like maybe you're going to go to that really expensive restaurant with your friends. I go out with a group of friends and we try new restaurants about every 6 weeks, and we don't care about the cost. We don't care what the prices are. We just care about what's the experience going to be. So last month it was fondue. So think about all sorts of fondue, like 5 courses of fondue. So think about what would make you feel prosperous. And I remember a great prosperity teacher, Edwin Gaines, who you may be familiar with. She was a Southern wild woman. She had the story about when she had no money, like just a few dollars. She went in the grocery store with a friend and she bought this tiny little can of, I can't even remember what it was. It was like pickles or something. It was some delicacy, right? This tiny little can, and spent a lot of money on it, but ate that, and it gave her that feeling of abundance, and things turned for her with that. So I would just challenge everyone to think about what is something that's going to create abundance. And I definitely believe that in your business, you want to invest. You want to invest in books. You want to buy books that are going to support your business. You want to have a coach who's going to support your business. You want to invest in people, a team, a VA, a tax preparer, a bookkeeper, a marketing person, all of this stuff that's going to support your business. Because every time you do that, you're saying, I'm worth it. What I have to offer is worth it.
Absolutely. That's
I
so
went off a
valuable.
little bit there, but
No,
yeah.
such great information. It's so true that, when because that shows value of your time, right? When
Yeah.
you're outsourcing certain elements of your business that are not your ideal or your genius zone, then it frees you up to do the things that are your genius zone. And you don't have to get dragged down energetically by doing these things that, oh, I don't want to do social media, or, oh, I don't want to do this. But then when you outsource it, energetically, you're freed up so you can do these other things that, that bring you more joy and happiness. And then you're more energized with the work that you are doing. So you're going to be more effective in the long run.
And you're freed up to do the work that is your expertise, which is what you're going to earn the most for.
Exactly.
Right? So if you're charging, I always say to people, the value of your hour, whatever, if you're a consultant or a coach, for instance, you may say, I charge 300 an hour, or I'll just say 300 to make it easy. You want to divide that by 3, because you're really not making 300 an hour. You're making about 100 an hour, because the other 2 hours are spent on everything else in your business, such as networking, such as delivery, such as operations, customer service, managing your team. So you really have to think about, it's a great reason to stop undervaluing yourself, but to think about the fact that you're not making what you think you're making. You're
It's
really
so
not making
true.
that. And as an accountant, I'm sure you've seen that. Boy, I bet you did some returns and people are, thinking they were doing so well. And then you looked at the reality and it was like,
It is a reality check, especially at tax season, because people look at their returns and then they're like, oh, by the time I have all my business expenses and pay my taxes, it's no wonders I don't have the money that I think I should have, right? Because at
yeah.
$300, in fact, I tell people that a 6-figure business typically costs you about 20,000 a year. 20 to 25.
Ooh,
So if you want to take home 6 figures, you need to be making closer to 150. By the
yeah.
time you deduct your expenses and your taxes, you've got to make more to get to that place. And I'm not saying that to deflate anybody and say, oh, I can't even go to 6 figures. It's got to be more. But it's just the reality of, what does it cost me to actually get to that 6 figures?
Or what
So
do I
that's a whole
invest?
other, we can talk forever on that one, but Well,
Okay, I
let's
want to
finish
just
up with
pause and I
that.
want to repeat what you said because that's very powerful and it's really realistic. And one thing I like about you is you've got that great background of being an accountant. You have your feet on the ground and you understand finance. And you also have that side of creativity and, a little bit of mysticism, right? And understanding that energy is what we are. So I love that you have this combination of right and left brain. And what I want everyone to really hear is, did you hear Jana say that? She said, remember, when you want a six-figure business, you're going to be investing at least, I don't like the word cost, I'm going to say investing, because cost implies we're giving something away and it hurts, but you're investing at least 20,000 in your business to get to that place. And so if you really want a true six-figure business, you're going to want to be more at 150 or above to have that. And that's great, because just think about it. You're being a benefactor of all the other people you're using their services to get to where you want to be too. You're like this amazing benefactor for everyone. You're helping people support their families by employing them. It's a beautiful
It's so
circulation.
true.
Yeah.
Yes. A win-win situation.
It is. So we've got fear. We talked about fear. We talked about undervaluing yourself and the fact that women are notorious at this. And, really, we really are. And it's so important. I have coaches. I bet you do too, Jana, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to
Because
have
they won't
somebody that
let us
shows
get
you the
by with
blind
it.
spots, right? There's things that you cannot see. In fact, I'm sure everybody's had this happen where your friends, you'll say, "Oh, so and so said that I act like this." And
Mm,
your friends will agree, right? And you're like, "Really?" Because we don't see. We're in
mhm.
it. So we don't necessarily see our behavior and some of our beliefs and our fears. And having that outside perspective will accelerate how quickly you build your business or grow your business. So I have two business coaches right now. They push me and they help me see the blind spots and actually get to a place where, my business is thriving more than it ever has.
Mhm. And if I count all of mine, it's like five. Some I don't use all the time, but I know when I need them. It's like, oh, I need to go see so and so. I need to have a session right now. So yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And we don't have that perception of ourselves. I know that somebody recently said something to me and I was like, you really feel that way? And I don't see myself in the way that he was seeing me, because I'm very outspoken, but he felt kind of railroaded. And I said, well, tell me more about that. And it was feedback. So I could look at it and decide, well, do I really think that's true? Or am I just really speaking my mind, which
Right.
I'm committed to doing? So tell us, what is well, I want to go back to fear for a second, if we could. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because, fear is that
That
fight,
alone could be a subject to itself.
fight, flight, freeze, fawn, you know, the
Right.
when we get in stress response, and I've seen people drop out of my program when they got to a point where they really had to start pre-selling something. For instance, they really had to hit the ground. They'd done all the prep work. They learned the sales and enrollment strategies. They had the design of the course, blah, blah, blah. But then when they got to that point, it was like, so tell us, how can we move through fear when we get in a place of feeling especially paralyzed by it, which happens. It happens in
Oh, it
business. So
happens all the time. And, we as women have been suppressed for thousands of years. So it is a natural response. And yet there are tools that we can do to get us past it. So fear is a response that activates what's called the amygdala part of our brain. It's in the back of our head, the reptilian part of our brain. And it's simply that, it's a reaction, right? It's like it's asking you, are you really in danger? Is there a saber-toothed tiger that is chasing you right now? And if the answer is no, then we need to assess. But most of the time, we go into fear and we close off.
mm,
So if we can take a breath, that's one of the simplest things we can do, is just take a couple of deep breaths. And it gets us out of that part of our brain and moves the reaction to the frontal lobe, where we can reason more effectively. But most of the time we're like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to shut down. Right. And this is where we have to have some sort of tools that get us to that reasoning perspective. And that's, it can be breath work. I do this other thing. It's called a positive intelligence PQ rep, where you're just like rubbing your fingers together, and that sensation actually calms you down. So if you're in a meeting and somebody triggers you, right? That's that fight, fight, or freeze mode. Your hands can be under the table and you're just it's the tiniest violin, rubbing your fingers together, and it is shifting your mind into
And you could
the
be
frontal
giving
lobe.
them the middle finger too, right, Jenna?
I know you can totally be using the middle finger, right? So it's like a dual purpose.
Okay, we have to be
But
just
it's
a
getting
little.
your reaction out of that, that freeze mode, that fear mode, and into a place where you can actually reason more effectively and process, okay, is this really how I want to be? Because if I'm just reacting, you're activating cortisol, you're activating adrenaline, you're flooding your system with all kinds of toxins, and it's not really healthy, and you're not making objective choices at that point. So breath work, taking a couple of deep breaths, even just listening to sounds around you where, you're tuned into, oh, I hear a bird outside. Okay, that's calming me down. It's getting me to a place where I can reason more effectively, and it's getting me out of that responder. The more we can practice these tools, the less we react.
And that's important in sales, because if we start to feel, I don't know about you, but if I start to get in a place of rejection, right? For instance, feeling rejected, right? Which is definitely not the place to be in sales. The place to be in sales is a place of service and giving. But if I ever get in that place of getting irritable and rejected, then I'm just like a crocodile, right? I watch crocodile videos, by the way. I have to tell you, I don't know why they come on YouTube for me, but something about crocodile videos, suddenly I had this stream of them, and I started learning a lot. And in fact, there was this woman at a birthday party with this crocodile that she had worked with, and she was doing this birthday party for kids. You may have seen this up on the internet. Well, she just happened to put her hand a little too close to not the middle part of the crocodile's head. And crocodile saw her arm and grabbed it and pulled her under and turned her. Well, she got out of this, thankfully, with the help of a bystander. But what she said was so powerful to me. She said, he was just being a crocodile. I mean, he didn't realize it was my arm. He just saw the arm, and it was his reaction. It was like,
food.
There's no thinking. And when like you point out, when we get in the amygdala, there's no thinking going on. There's no processing. It's just like snap, well, okay. And we don't want to talk to that person again about being in our program or whatever. And it's really not a helpful place to be. So I love that you're suggesting breath work and really immersing yourself mindfully in your surroundings so that you could just begin to, settle the cortisol levels, which have obviously gone boop.
Spiking through the roofs. And that fear of rejection, especially when it comes to, you're selling yourself, whether you're selling a product or a service. There's a part of us that feels like, oh, they're rejecting me. But they're not rejecting you personally, right? So we have to kind of take a step back from this and be objective. They're not rejecting you, but they're not seeing how this, whatever you're offering, is going to solve their problem, right? Even though you may know that it will, maybe you haven't presented it in such a way that it gives them enough education about what you offer. And a rejection in the moment doesn't mean a rejection forever.
Exactly.
It's just right now.
Right. And they may be in the throes of all sorts of fears that are unarticulated. What will my spouse say? Do we have the money? What if I do another program and it doesn't work out? They're really grappling with all sorts of unspoken things in their heads, unspoken affections in many cases, and self-doubt. They're grappling with that. So I love your point. It's not rejection of us, and it's not rejection forever. It may be no right now, but it's a not yet, truthfully. It's a not yet.
Yes. We have to look at not only our fears and what projecting our fear of visibility or a fear of rejection or whatever fears we have, but we have to also look at what fears they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And if the fears are so polar opposite, it's going to push the two of you apart. But if there can, you can bring this to a place of, okay, but this is what I can do to support you, then it will help them in overcoming their fears. So if we just, stop for a second, even during when you're talking with someone about what you're offering, if you can take a breath and get to that place of what I have is really valuable and it's going to support whomever, this person or whomever, then it will help you move past your fears and that fear of rejection. And it will help them feel more comfortable, because if they're picking up on your energy and your fears, what's going to happen? Rejection. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. And, I found it's really also helpful sometimes to just say, I feel uncomfortable saying this, but I really want to give you some feedback. Is it okay for me to give you feedback? I'll ask for permission and then I'll say the difficult thing. And I'll say, look, I'm going out on a skinny branch right now and I feel really uncomfortable saying it. However, I want to serve you. And then something that might come out of my mouth is, you've told me you wanted to start this business for 45 years. How old are you now? And,
If not now, then when?
yeah, exactly. And, and I know you've put it off. I've got a few people I need to go circle back to right now, because I just recently, Jana, was able to connect with the financing company. I'm super excited about that, because that way nobody ever has to give me that excuse if I don't have the money. They can, as long as they have like a credit score of 550 or up, they can get abundant offers through this finance company, and they can figure out whatever. It can be monthly payments, whatever they need to do will be done. I love that, because that's such a common objection for people, and it just takes it away. It just takes it away. But we have to be in this place of being willing to sometimes go out on the limb and say the uncomfortable things. And I like to just say, I'm really uncomfortable saying this, because it's just real, and
Right. That
yeah,
authenticity goes a long ways.
yeah.
We don't need to be selling to people. It's authentically walking them through a journey and a process.
Oh, I
So
love that. We don't need to be everybody. Wait, I gotta pause. I gotta pause. Did everybody hear that? This is a great quote. We don't need to be selling to people. We just need to authentically be walking them through a process that will get them where they want to go. What's the end of that?
absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. And it is a process, and it's like they're standing on, they're standing at Ellis Island, you were talking about what was it, the Empire State Building earlier. They're standing there and they're waiting for the boat to leave, and they're thinking, am I going to get on that boat? I don't know. Should I get on that boat? They've got all sorts of stuff going on in their head. And we're there to be the one who says, come on, I'll be your guide. It's safe on the boat. You have a life raft. I'm here. They're lifeboats. Come on, we can do this thing. It's not the Titanic, people.
Yes, we are going to make it. Yes, absolutely. So powerful.
I love that. So, well, we've dealt with fear. Thank you for elaborating on that. I think that's really helpful. And we really want to be in, as you said, that's grounded space, and really centered in the value of what we offer, so that we don't feel fearful when they're afraid, and we don't feel rejected when they're having their normal objections. We're just able to stay with them and be present and serve them, by ascertaining whether or not they will be served by what we have that could solve their problem. So tell us, what is the first S in fuss? Since that's
So
our
we'll just go with both of them because they sort of intertwine, but systems and strategies. And this is where I think a lot of women struggle, because they are the artist. You have some idea. There's something inside you that you want to creatively get out there. So you are the artist, but not necessarily the entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
So you can be artistic and do whatever it is that you are over here, but marrying it with this world of entrepreneurship is sort of a challenge, right? It's sort of thinking about, well, where do I want to go with this? And this is one of my favorite subjects, because I'm a very strategic person. I've done strategic planning for big corporations.
Mhm.
It's really knowing what your bigger dream is.
Mhm.
You know, what is your purpose and passion? And I love helping people dive into that. And as they dive into that, then everything seems to align with it. So, to give you an example, obviously, I went to school. I have a bachelor's and a master's in accounting. I was in tax forever. But about 26 years ago, I got into energy healing, and I'm incredibly intuitive. And I just saw them as these very separate worlds. And I
Mm.
wanted to know, how can I marry these two worlds, because they do intersect, they do
Mm.
intertwine. And as women, we are incredibly intuitive, right?
Mhm.
So, how do we really master that part of us? And for me, it's bringing in the strategies, bringing in the systems so that women are more productive, they're more efficient, more effective. They're not spinning their wheels, thinking they need all the time in the world to get things done. When I wrote my second book, I was working full time, and I just set a schedule. Time
Mhm.
blocking is one of my biggest friends, and my time
Woohoo!
block, I know, right? That's one of the best systems that you can implement, right? Because it will help you be more effective. But I would write for 1 hour every single day. And yes, it took me 6 months to write a book, but I got it done because on the weekends I may spend, 2 or 3 hours. So now it's 10 hours a week. If you think
Mhm.
about it, that's quite a bit of time that you're devoted to something,
And
right?
let's talk about what time blocking is, just because maybe a lot of people are
Absolutely.
familiar, but there are probably some who aren't, and it is an incredible way to make the most of your time. So how do you define time blocking?
So time blocking is literally taking blocks of time that you allocate for specific activities. It can be 5-minute blocks, it can be 15-minute blocks, whatever time blocks you want. I will work in usually 20, 30, or 60-minute blocks. And
Mhm.
the way that works is, and again, we think, oh, if I'm going to build this business, I need all the time in the world. But
Mhm.
the truth is, if I spent, let's say that I'm shooting videos for whatever social media I'm doing. Well, Sunday is a day that a lot of people get dressed up, or maybe it's Monday, but your makeup's on, you're ready to go. You shoot all of your videos that day. You just push
Exactly.
them out. You switch outfits, you change whatever up, but you shoot your 5 videos for the week that day. Or maybe you do it the entire month at the beginning of the month, right? But you've got them knocked out in an hour or 2 hours, whatever time it takes you to do that. Same thing with social media. If I have, let's say I have a client that cancels, right? It happens, stuff comes up, that's fine. So I'll think, okay, well, I've got 45 minutes. What am I going to do in that 45 minutes? Well, I can start to create a framework of social media for the next week or two,
Mhm.
just in that 30 minutes. It doesn't have to have everything in it, but I can at least start the process and then pass it off to my VA to say, okay, here's where we're starting. This is what I need
Yes,
you to do. Right. So it's just
I love
blocking
it.
off specific pieces of time. I literally set a timer on my phone.
I was just gonna show you my timer. We're so connected.
Beautiful timing.
Now,
Yes.
this is my sunbeam timer. It's
Love
hot,
it.
it's an egg timer. Now, the reason I like this one, I know I use my phone sometimes when I'm out and about, but the reason I like this one is it's so obnoxious. Listen to this. Can you hear it? It's like
Oh my gosh.
and
Okay.
so
I
what
would hate hearing that in the background. It'd be like, oh my gosh,
oh,
the bomb's
no,
going
it
to go off.
helps
I need to
me. I don't use it all the time, but it really helps me, Jana, because it gives me urgency. I hear that.
Yes.
And it's not a horrible, it's a and then when it finishes, I get this happy ding and I'm like, woo, time block's over. But your phone will work just as well. But I just like the ticking to give me a sense of urgency. I love what you're saying, because time blocking of like tasks together is really essential to have productivity, because they show in studies of productivity that every time you change gears, you lose about 20 minutes. So let's say you do one
True.
video, you were talking about videos, you do a video over here, and then you're like, well, let me go do a blog post. You're going to lose 20 minutes in between. And then when you come back to your videos, you're going to be thinking, what was I doing? And you lose another 20 minutes. So listen to what Jana's saying and block off time. And in those times, those blocks of times, have systems. it became apparent to me really fast that I would need templates for this show that really just happened. It was one of those things that just happened. I would need templates, and I like to keep things simple. So I know exactly we're going to have a meeting. We're going to create our title. I'm going to send you the email. You got the email. It tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's very clear. And that's it. I got something the other day, I'll tell you, Jana, from somebody about a podcast, and I was like, oh my God. So it's like 3 pages and it's so disorganized, and I don't even know. I was like, I'm overwhelmed.
I wouldn't
I
read
have it.
that. 3 pages? No. Who's
Well, I've
got time
seen
for
that
that?
before, but really, once we have the title, because we're professionals, we've done what we've done for years and years. You've been in energy healing for over 25 years. I've been in it for 27 years. We've both done what we've been doing forever. And if we were newbies, it would be different. We'd want to have all our questions carefully written out and so forth. But I realized I needed a template. And once I had the template, well, guess what? Now I have my system, and I like to have a notebook. It makes me feel
Mhm.
better to have the notebook where I can see quickly who's scheduled and when. And so you got in your time blocks, you should be creating templates. You should be creating processes and systems for every regular thing that you do in your business. So asking you this, Jen, I would like to ask, what are some of the things that you think people who are in business for themselves most need to block out? What would you suggest they most block out like a time for and create systems for? Do you have particular things that you
Absolutely. So it really depends on where they're at in their business because, if you're pretty new and you don't have a support system as far as like a VA and those types of
yeah.
things, then you are wearing all of the hats,
Mm,
right? And I know it can be overwhelming. I've been there too. I totally get it.
me too.
However, if you have a system in place that on a certain day, this is what you're doing, then there's no question, there's no confusion of, oh, should I be shooting videos today or should I be doing this today? It's like you have everything blocked off, like you said, your schedule, right? And I think this is where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of fall off is they're
Mhm.
used to being told what to do, right? Like
So
you go to
true.
a job, here's what you do. Yes, you may have a general sense of the tasks, but reports are due on a certain day. This has to be done at a certain time. And so you have some sort of structure to your entire day. Well, as
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, guess who gets to be that structurer? It's YOU,
I
right?
love
So
it. I heard this thing, Jana, it made me laugh so hard. It was like, I have the worst boss. And it was like, I'm self-employed. And I thought that
I
is
know,
so
right? It's such
true, right? So we got to become our best boss. We really have
exactly.
to become our best boss. And that means, rewarding ourselves, for instance, when we have a completion of one of those time blocks, or when you did your book over those 6 months, writing an hour-long stretches. At the end of the week, I'm sure you gave yourself a reward, a
Oh,
walk
absolutely.
outside, or a nice glass of wine, or a silly movie about zombies, whatever. I'm watching Walking Dead right now. I have to admit, I never thought I'd watch this, but I'm all into it now. I never
I
watched
love
it when it
it.
was new, but I was not much of a TV watcher until COVID, and now I'm just it's something my daughter and I do together. But
Oh, that's fun though.
I learned from the
That's special.
zombies. I learned from the zombies because guess what? Business is like the Walking Dead. Did you realize that if there are 10 of us in this room, at the end of 10 years, only one is still going to be standing as a business owner?
Oh, I believe that.
Only one.
Absolutely.
That's the
Statistics show
statistic.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And a
crazy. And
realtor.
and that's what I want to blow that statistic out of the water. Like I
Yes.
want all 10 of them. If that's what they really want to
Yes.
do and be, then I want all 10 of them to be standing in 10 years.
I'm with you on that. And usually, sadly, they don't get that in some of the bigger programs, the really big programs. They don't get the individualized attention that I know you love to give your people and I love to give my people. Like if they're going to fall through the cracks, they would really have to like really struggle to do it, you know?
Right?
It's like, let me cut off my arm and see if the zombie will eat me. They'd have to really try to
They have
do
to
it.
work really hard to sabotage themselves.
Exactly, because I'm going to do everything I can to help them succeed, and I know you do too. Well, you and I could talk forever. That is so obvious. We're going to need to do this again. I know that you have a wonderful summit coming up in September. It's called the Goddesspreneur Summit. Is that right?
Goddesspreneur Business Growth Summit.
The Goddesspreneur Business Growth Summit. Is that right?
Yes.
Preneur Business Growth Summit. I'm going to pop this up here for everybody, and that'll be in
Perfect.
September. And they can, how can they find out about that? It's a
So we'll be
website.
posting stuff on our website, goddesspreneur.com. And it's probably the best way is to get on the email list, because then you're never going to miss anything. Plus, every week I send some sort of business tips and information just to help you stay inspired and on track with everything.
I
So
love that.
definitely connect with us.
And you offer everybody a wonderful free thing, right? A complimentary something.
Yeah, right now there's a business blueprint that's available, and I'm in the process of creating kind of a fun quiz that shows your business direction. So tuning into kind of astrology of earth, water, fire, and air, what your primary business strategy is, because that will help you know yourself better. So that's in the works, but if you'll get on the list, then you'll be getting access to that too.
And right now, that business blueprint will be super interesting for everyone, because I don't care what stage of business you are at, you need to always be looking back at what your blueprint is, and it evolves over time. Like when I
Absolutely.
started my business 22 and a half years ago, the way I started is so different from what I have now. It's like, oh my lands, how did I get to where I am now? It makes sense when I go back and look at the seeds I was planting. But the point being, you all, I don't care where you are in your business, and maybe you're just thinking about one, go and get your business blueprint from Jana. And then you'll also stay aware of everything that she's doing with that Goddess Business Growth Summit. And you all, I always forget to also tell you, you can go to my website and grab your How to Overcome Overwhelm in 7 Easy Steps ebook. I always seem to forget that thing. And I just was reminded by my coach, Bardsley, you need to make sure you tell people about it. So you can overcome overwhelm with my thing, and then you can get your business blueprint done with Jana's complimentary offering, and then you can be set up for success, in your business, which is what we want for you. There is no reason for you to have to work a job. If you're willing to work hard, and there is a misnomer, people think, oh, I'm going to have my own business so I can control my schedule. Well, you do control your schedule, but you're going to be working in the beginning 7 days a week for sure. So let's be real. And you're going to be putting in the hours, but the difference will be you'll be excited about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We want to fuel people's passion so that they really create, transform their ideas into the income impact that they want.
Yes, exactly. We want you in 5 years and 10 years, as we said, to be one of that one business or more businesses who are still standing, and you're proud of yourself, and you're saying, wow, I've really done the thing that I was given to do. I've done what I was given to do on this planet, and you're not going to live with regret. No living with regret.
Brilliant. Love
No,
it.
with regret. I'm getting chills as I say that. So I know that's meant for somebody who's watching here. I want you to pay attention. If you have those little chills going on your arm and your back, that is the universe saying to you, pay attention. You don't have all the time in the world. None of us do. And now's the time. And you have 2 amazing women right here, who are there to support you. Well, Jana, I just want to thank you deeply from my heart and from my right and my left brain.
Well, I want to thank you. This has been amazing.
Oh, it's been so wonderful
I
to
love
have you.
chatting with you. I have a feeling we're going to do a lot more.
I think we are too. And everyone, I want to ask you, we're doing this show just because we want to feed you. I want to give you wonderful guests like Jana who give you new ways to think of things, new strategies you can implement, mind shit, mind shit, no,
Let's get
mindset.
rid of that stuff. Bring in the mind shift.
It's Friday afternoon. Mindset
Right?
shifts with a FTS in it that will give you just wonderful things every week on Fridays about 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So I want to say to you, everyone, go to my YouTube channel, go to YouTube, Dr. Barnsley Brown, just put it in and subscribe. So you'll get notifications. And we are broadcasting just about every Friday. Once in a while, it's a little later, but usually 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday. And I also want to ask you to share this with your friends who you have heard talk about for years and years and years how they want to start their own business and they haven't done it. Or maybe they're in their business and they're feeling discouraged and they may be even thinking of giving up. I want you to share this video with them. We do not want them to give up. We are evidence, right, Jenna, that you can make this happen.
Absolutely.
So thanks again. Thank you. Lots of love to everybody. Share and like and love and comment. And I'll see you next Friday. And thank you again, Jana. You're just a blessing. I'll show them your glasses again for the ones who came on late. I've got to get myself a pair of these.
I
We
know,
all
these are great. Yeah, spreading abundance and love and joy to everyone.
woohoo. Bye all.